Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here, got another Master Duel video for you, coming at you with a tier list. Now that the new pack with Yummy is out, and it's been quite a bit of time. I say quite a bit of time, it's been like less than a week. I've had some amount of time to adjust, and now I feel like I have a good basis for where the meta is at. So we're going to do a tier list here. I've got 30 of the most popular decks and their variants listed here. I'm going to be splitting them between tiers 1, 2, 3, and Rogue. As always, little disclaimer to give before these tier list videos is that these are not the only viable decks in the meta. There are tons of decks that are not listed here, that some of them could even be in like tier 3 or higher potentially. I just picked some of the more popular decks right now, following both the new pack and what's generally played a lot. But yeah, if a deck isn't here, or if I put it in Rogue category, that does not mean it's bad by any means. It just means it's not quite as good as some of the other stuff. I think every deck on this tier list is capable of hitting Master 1 or topping a tournament. It's just kind of a matter of like how dedicated of a pilot you have. But yeah, let's not waste any more time and let's get right on into it here. We're going to start right off the top with pure Draco Tale, which I'm definitely going to be putting in the tier 1 category. It's funny, you know, before the Duelist Cup, the common sentiment from myself too, I was very guilty of this, was that there's no real reason to play pure Draco Tale when you could play Branded or Magistus and have more engine. But the Duelist Cup proved us all wrong in that, right? We saw pure Draco Tale as not only one of the more successful variants in terms of ranking, but also one of the more common ones as well. And then, of course, after the Duelist Cup is when I started seeing comments on other YouTube videos being like, well, of course you wouldn't want to brick on Albaz and Fyruxel. It's obvious why pure is good. And it's like, looking at that person, I know you were on Branded. I just know it before the Duelist Cup results. But anyway. Yeah, pure Draco Tale is definitely still one of the better decks of the current meta. I think in the grand scheme of things, pure and Branded are about as strong as each other. I don't think really one is like obviously better than the other, with Magistus maybe being a little bit behind, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll rank all these decks eventually. So pure Draco Tale, absolutely a tier 1 deck. Blue Eyes. Yeah, I can't keep putting Blue Eyes in tier 2. I think I did this last time as well, but I think Primite Blue Eyes, I don't have the Primite engine listed here, but obviously Blue Eyes always plays Primite. But I think Primite Blue Eyes is kind of going to be the top of tier 3. It's just like, it's being power crept, right? Especially now that Yummy's in the game. These Justice Hunters decks are showing us just how kind of not as great by comparison, you know, something like Blue Eyes is. I think I said this last time too, but Blue Eyes is kind of the new Sword Soul. Very fair synchro deck that does the same combo line every turn 1. And is just getting slowly power crept out of the meta, but definitely still viable for sure. Megalith. Now, Megalith is one of the decks that received some follow-up support from the recent pack, and while it does help Megalith keep up with the meta, I don't think it pulls Megalith out of Rogue status. The deck is quite good, don't get me wrong, and the support will definitely be used, but it's one of those waves of support that while it boosts the deck and it keeps it relevant, it doesn't make it like tiered or like OP or anything. While I'm at it, I'll just talk about DDD. I think it kind of got the exact same treatment where like, yeah, the new DDD stuff is great. It's fantastic for the deck. It's consistency boosting. It's adding more oomph to your end board, an OTK option. That's really, really good. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be quite enough to pull DDD out of Rogue status. But it will definitely boost it from like lower Rogue to upper Rogue for sure. Same for Megalith, definitely. All right. Time to talk about the adorable cat in the room. Yummy! So, there's a couple of different variants we're going to be talking about here, but for pure Yummy, I absolutely think this is a tier 1 deck, and I think pure Yummy is slightly better than pure Draco Tale. And the main reason for this is just the sheer amount of off engine that Yummy has room for. I mean, pure Yummy decks in general are so like aggressively built for best of 1 ranked ladder, right? You can have like 16 starters, 18 hand traps, and that's 34 cards of your deck right there, right? So think about the other 6. In my case, at least, it's Call By, Triple Attack, and Cross Out. Stuff you always want to open because they're really good against hand traps. Really, at the end of the day, pure Yummy decks have exactly 3 spell cards you don't want to open. The 2 field spells and Yummy Surprise. And even then, opening Mignon or Yummy Surprise is not always bad. Like for example, if you open Yummy's Mignon and you still activate the Yummy Snatchy effect, they will probably throw out a Veil or an Imperm against it, and then you can just play Mignon from hand anyway. So, like, Pure Yummy has exactly 1 card, Acro-Quee, that it never wants to see on turn 1. And it has exactly 2 cards that it doesn't really want to see on turn 1, but would still be fine in some scenarios. So you're looking at a deck that has 37 of its 40 cards that it wants to open pretty much every single game. That's insane. That's honestly insane. And I think that sheer consistency is what makes Pure Yummy probably just the best deck on Ranked Ladder right now. It's not by a landslide. I think that Draco Tale and its variants, as well as other Yummy variants, are pretty close behind. But I do think Pure Yummy has this advantage uniquely to best of 1 Ranked Ladder. On top of playing better into hand traps like Fuelos and stuff. Nibiru, etc. Pure Yummy even plays pretty well into Droll, the hand trap that's supposed to be really good against this deck. Yeah, Pure Yummy actually still can pretty much full combo right through it. So I think that Pure Yummy deserves the top slot for tier 1 for now, at least. I might change my mind here later as we rank more stuff. Okay, we have White Forest. I'm gonna put in tier 2. It's sad to say, but White Forest is already kind of starting to get power crept out of the meta. Or not out of the meta, that's definitely a bit harsh, more than a bit harsh. Like, I think even if you put in all of the stuff that's in the TCG and OCG right now, like, White Forest would at worst be like towards the top of Rogue. But it is definitely feeling that power creep slightly. But at this point in time, I'm confident calling it a tier 2 deck. It might end up being more towards the bottom. I guess we'll see. We'll see. Odeon. I'll put Odeon more towards the bottom of tier 2. But I think it's worse than White Forest. I think these are about on par with each other. I haven't run into much Odeon on ladder myself, but from what I can tell in my research, it seems to still be a quite popular deck, and I think it is still quite good. One of the better trap decks of the meta. Tier Elements is most often going to be Gem Knight Tier Elements, which I think is still a pretty solid tier 3 deck, about on par with Blue Eyes. I mean, it's more explosive in what it can do. Actually, it might even be a little stronger. It's more explosive in what it can do. It's just not quite as consistent as something like Blue Eyes. I'll leave it like this for now. Stun is stun is stun is stun is stun. It's always going to live in Rogue. It's always going to be a nuisance as long as there are floodgates in the game. But, I mean, literally, what else is there to say about stun? Anyway. Okay, so Mitsurugi Risal. I'm actually going to put this in tier 1. I think Risal variants are still tier 1 in this meta. Not quite to the power level of Yummy or Draco Tale, but I think I am willing to put them in tier 1. Maybe the top of tier 2. I think the big thing that I'm going to have to ask myself a little bit later on is, do I think Risal is better? Like, do I think Mitsurugi variants should be in tier 1? Well, we'll get there when we get there, but for now, I'm willing to still call Risal and its variants tier 1, I think. Alright, Pure Sulfachord. Sulfachord got a pretty nice boost with the Sulfachord Happiness in terms of its power level. But I think I still have to call it a rogue deck at the end of the day. Somewhere around here. Now, there is a Sulfachord variant we'll talk about a little bit later on that's better, but this is pure Sulfachord here. Pure Sulfachord, while a cool and interesting deck, yeah, I don't think I can call it anything higher than Rogue. But Happiness, of course, is a great power buff for the deck. Sky Striker, I think, is definitely still a tier 2 deck. I'll put it even a little bit above the other two we've talked about here. Just a great control deck with great support. Magistus Draco Tale is gonna go in tier 1, but it's gonna be more towards the lower end. I think even lower than something like Mitsurugi Risal. Just because, like, I don't know, the Magistus cards do add quite a bit to the Draco Tale end board. It's just that it's that power versus consistency thing, right? And it's not that Magistus makes your Draco Tale deck less consistent, it just makes it less consistent at pushing through hand traps making you a lot weaker against stuff like Droll and Fuelos, etc. So I'll put it in tier 1, but I'll put it more towards the lower end of tier 1, I think. Alright, Engraver here is representing Fiend Smith Control in particular, a deck that I like quite a bit and is quite flexible in how it can adjust, you know, its setup for any given meta. But I don't think I can call it any higher than tier 3, personally. Alright, Sulfachord Yummy. Let's see, in my pack review video, I called this a tier 3 deck. But I think that was a little bit harsh. I'll put it in tier 2. But I'm not going to put it necessarily above Sky Striker for now, I think. Maybe I will. Maybe something like this. Better. Yeah, I think it actually does. Yeah, so I think that Sulfachord Yummy is going to be one of the weaker variants of Yummy. But it does still add some interesting options, the Sulfachord package, right? Between like a negate as well as the unique Sulfachord effects. And it's never bad to have another engine to kind of be able to have more ability to bait hand traps, but at the end of the day, I think for the reasons I already talked about, pure Yummy is still far and away the best way to play the deck. And in my research, Sulfachord Yummy just didn't really seem to put up as much results in tournaments, in paper play, as some of these other decks I'm going to talk about in tier 1. So this is a little bit more speculative because it's too... like, it's a new deck and also new support for an engine, like all in one. So I'm a little more speculative here. Plus, I haven't played Sulfachord ever. I don't own any of the cards for it, so I don't have really experience with it. I'm gonna put it towards the top of tier 2 for now, though. Luna Light, I will also be putting in tier 2. I think a little bit above. I think it's like on par with like White Forest and Odeon. I mean, yeah, the Leo Dancer Towers is always going to be at least a little bit of a threat in, you know, any given meta, especially in best of 1 ranked ladder where it's like you can't always be prepared for the towers, but you can always be prepared to stop Lunalight's combo and use your hand traps to stop them from getting to their tower. So that's kind of like the drawback there, but I still think Lunalight is a really, really solid deck right now. Alright, this is Fiend Smith Mitsurugi, and I'll just go ahead and rank pure Mitsurugi here, because I think these two decks are, like, pretty much exactly equal with each other. The big question for me is, do I think they're still tier 1, or do I think they're tier 2? Like, the top of... I actually am going to put them, I think, towards the top of tier 2. This might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think that pure Mitsurugi, or even Mitsurugi with a Fiend Smith package, doesn't provide as much oomph as some of these other tier 1 variants are going to be, right? Like Fiend Smith engine is solid, and Mitsurugi is still a really good deck, but when you think about combining Fiend Smith and Mitsurugi as opposed to something like Anamat Risal, like, or even, what would a better example be? Well, a better example would be like Mitsurugi Yummy, right? Like, Mitsurugi is often more of a supplemental engine, and Fiend Smith is pretty much always a supplemental engine. So when you combine two supplemental engines together, it just lacks the same amount of power that a, you know, meta house like you know, Yummy or Draco Tale would have when combined with Fiend Smith, or in Yummy's case, you know, Mitsurugi. So that's why I'm going to put these at the top of tier 2. I might change my mind later, but I think that's a good spot for them. Oh, this is Dragon Maid Draco Tale. I forgot I still have this variant on the tier list. There's probably another deck I could have talked about instead of this one, but I guess I'll put this in like tier 3. I don't really see this variant around because, I mean, there's just way better ways to play Draco Tale, but it's definitely not bad. It's just, it's sad, right? Like, these variants like Sulfachord Yummy and Dragon Maid Draco Tale are really cool, but at the end of the day, like, the cool factor is kind of bringing down the overall power level that these decks just have inherently. But that doesn't make them, like, bad or not worth playing or uninteresting. I think the interesting factor would be the most important reason to play them, but at the end of the day, I think playing these decks pure, at least in Master Duel, is probably just going to be the most optimal way to go. Orcus decks, I think I'm definitely going to end up putting in tier 2. I'll put them, I think they're roughly on par with Mitsurugi. But I think Mitsurugi might even be a little bit stronger. I think that Fiend Smith Orcust is definitely better than Mitsurugi Orcust. And Mitsurugi Orcust, I think I'll put even a little bit lower than Sky Striker. Yeah, the Mitsurugi engine, like, at the end of the day, it just makes you a little bit more susceptible to things like Droll and Retaliating Sea. And of course, you're always going to be doing more special summons from decks with stuff like Fuelos and Maxi. Granted, of course, the power of the Mitsurugi engine to add Murakumo, board wipe, and negate, and other stuff to your end board is worth it, don't get me wrong, but it is still a weakness you have to consider as well. That's more just saying why I think, like, you know, Mitsurugi Orcust is weaker than Fiend Smith Orcust. Labyrinth, as sad as it is to say, I'm going to have to, I think, put towards the top of tier 3. Because, like, here's the thing. Lab is going to be as good as its normal trap cards are against the meta. Stuff like Dimensional Barrier, potentially stuff like Eradicator Virus, or more generically useful things like the cannon, right? And yeah, I mean, you think about D-Barrier, like, yeah, you can call Synchros against Yummy, but they can still, like, set up a board of, like, giant Yummy monsters with the Minion. Or if it's Mitsu Yummy, they can still just do ritual stuff, right? Really, I think the fact that there is so many different variants of all these different decks kind of makes it harder for Lab to be able to keep up with stuff like D-Barrier. And of course, you can't ever call links with D-Barrier. That's a kind of weakness of it too. I mean, it's not that Lab lives or dies by how good Dimensional Barrier is, but it's kind of a good litmus test for, like, how strong Lab is in any given format. I mean, there's also just the fact that Lab is kind of starting to lose a little bit of its power compared to the rest of, you know, other decks in the meta. So, hopefully we'll see some follow-up support for Lab at some point. There is still that other monster on the art of Big Welcome Lab, the silhouette we haven't seen yet. Alright, Mitsurugi Yummy, I am going to put in tier 1, but I'm going to put it lower than Pure for sure, and even a little bit lower than some Draco Tale variants. Just because, yeah, again, while the Mitsurugi package does add, you know, some oomph to your end board, it's also going to make you weaker to hand traps as well. Always a thing to consider. Automat Risal is still very, very good in this meta. I think it's definitely still a tier 1 deck for sure. Yeah, I mean, we saw it perform very, very well in the Duelist Cup, and it didn't lose any of its power, so yeah, I'll put it in tier 1. Fiend Smith Gem Knight, I'm going to continue to put towards the top of tier 2. I know people keep saying it's not, it's a tier 1 deck, but, like, I gotta be real with y'all. I never run into this deck on ladder, so it's hard for me to gauge it in that regard. And when I don't really see it on ladder, and I don't see it putting up as many results as it did before, it's like, I'm sorry, but I can't put it in tier 1. I can't justify it. Brenda Draco Tale is going to be tier 1. I'll put it, like, here, I think is fine. Malice. Okay, Malice I'm going to put... I know this is, like, the like, 5th time I've been like, no, this is the top of tier 2. But yeah, Malice I'll put at the top of tier 2. The consistency weaknesses do seem to have affected its popularity, but I could easily see a world where, you know, the next Duelist Cup rolls in and Malice is still good and we're putting it back in tier 1 again. But that won't be for a while, so it could get hit before then if it does prove to be good. But anyway, yeah, I'll put it towards the top of tier 2 for now. Pure, Gem Knight, and Tenpai I think are both going to go, like, down here. I'll put Tenpai a little bit higher. And then Branded I'll continue to put in tier 2 because it just continues to be a really solid deck. Wait till we get that follow-up support though, then Branded will definitely be much higher power level. But speaking of Branded's power level, I'll put it a little bit above stuff like Lunalight and Odeon. Okay, so this is where our tier list is going to end at, and I'm glancing over it, and I think I'm pretty satisfied with the placement of everything here. Yeah, I think I'm very satisfied with this tier list. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments below as far as like where everything is at. Again, I think these Pure variants, particularly Pure Yummy, for their ability to just streamline their most powerful engine and have optimal amount of room for off engine and minimal bricks as well, it's just going to make them the best decks in the meta right now. But again, let me know what you think below. That's going to do it for now. Thank you so very much for watching. Always appreciate you. And we especially appreciate the folks who are subscribing on Patreon, getting that exclusive content, and or joined as a YouTube member where they're seeing uploads early. Yeah, let's go ahead and move to the outro so we can thank them by name in the credits. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.